Good morning, everybody. It's another episode of our little coffee morning chats. And this morning, we've had a little bit of a little shifty around. We've got the brilliant Dee Adam, yay, female producer, which is always like such an honor. And this is good because we're advocates for women in music. One of my fave producers, Larry Hibbitt. Yay.
Hello.
And we don't know because unfortunately Mike Krompass couldn't make it this morning. He sends his apologies to everybody. He's in the middle of a big move because obviously he's moved here from LA to work on the rock scene up in Manchester. And then we nearly had a stand-in of Iain Archer, but we're not sure where Iain is right now. Dun, dun, dun. No, I'm joking. But guys, so for me, this episode was really, really quite important. Because for me, this is what I call real music. So, not that it's not. Oh, he is here! Yay! Iain.
Hey!
Unmute yourself. Hey, so Iain, the brilliant Iain Archer is with us as well now. This is great.
So how are you doing, the brilliant Victoria Horn?
Oh, I don't know about that. So I worked till 3 o'clock last night with LA, so I'm like a bit...
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. Good work.
They're wrapping up a record like in a month, but that's another story. But
Wow.
This episode, guys, was really, like, I'm not joking, it's really important for me because I'm not saying pop music isn't real music, I'm not saying that at all, but the structure, the more traditional sort of structure of verses, pre's, choruses with the production that travels a bit more, you know, and songs that build. You guys are obviously tapping into that and working with artists that do that, which I think, you know, it's really important that we keep that side of music alive, and also the fact that we, you know, with real instruments, because, you know, we know what it's like, they go in and out of fashion. So yeah, I want to talk about all of those things today, but I want to just start first with your backgrounds and your story. So Iain, research. I know you're from Bangor, Northern Ireland.
Correct.
How's that for a muso?
In terms of coming from Bangor and music in Bangor, you mean like scene thing?
Growing up, the music scene.
Absolutely. To be honest, pretty remarkable, I have to say. Like, I think Bangor in particular is probably a pretty weird town in the UK per capita, like, you know, for a town that's sort of maybe 60,000 people, there's a really ridiculous amount of musicians that have come out of Bangor. I mean, if you look at Snow Patrol, Two Door Cinema Club, Foy Vance.
Oh, so they all came from there?
They're all from Bangor. Like, I could go like Steve Jones, who plays with Brian Eno and Air, and Ronan Keating. Steve's really good mate of mine, comes from Bangor. Yeah, there's a ton of people. So it's had something about it that has particularly inspired musicians. And so it was really good. Like, there were real opportunities to play, as you know, when I started playing in my first bands. And I don't know, I think maybe it was one of those towns in Northern Ireland that was potentially slightly less inward looking, a little bit. We still had our fair share of crap in the 70s, but I don't know, it felt like a place that had horizons in a way, and people who were thinking, or people who were, you know, on all sorts of different levels. Maybe there was kind of a little more, don't know, outward facing stuff happening.
I love it.
That was kind of inspiring. Belfast, like, I moved to Belfast then and spent university years there, and super cool music scene.
University, did you study music or do something different? Did you do
I studied a social sciences degree, so I studied a degree called human communication, which was like media and social sciences, which was great actually. It was really like lots of linguistics, lots of sociology, you know, lots of things that actually, as much of a flaky student as I was, that there are certain principles that become useful in the songwriting, both you know, from the actual writing perspective and the kind of interpersonal perspective. It's all kind of tied together in one way, shape, or form. But Yeah. So Northern Ireland was good in a sense, but it does suffer from, and less so now, obviously, because we're all in the kind of world village. But like, it did suffer from being a little hard to get out of that microcosm, you know.
Yeah, can I ask something? This is going to sound really silly, maybe. You know that song, Didn't We Have a Lovely Time the Day We Went to Bangor? Is
Yeah,
that different, or is that place?
I think that's about Bangor Wheels, but 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 the weird thing is that I know, well, I always got mistaken with Bangor Wheels, but the weird thing is that Bangor was a similar sort of town in Northern Ireland. Like, it was a sort of holiday town, probably before my time, before my time, generation before. My parents would have lived in East Belfast, working class Belfast, and Bangor would have been where they went for their summer holidays, so it's kind of pretty, and it's yeah, it's always had a little bit of that seaside sort of vibe.
So you were there, Iain. And by the way, in a minute, I don't know if you realise, but Larry and you have worked on a project together.
All right.
I'll tell you in a minute about that. We'll get to that in a second. So was like your first gig, like Snow Patrol, like the first gig? Was that your first gig?
No, definitely not. I like, following on from uni, I signed a record deal. I released a single that was like off the back of that was like Simon Mayo's, he had the breakfast show at the time, and so the sort of lead single off my record was his, whatever the hottest record in the world was then, 2 weeks running kind of thing. So I had with the first album that I made as a solo artist, had quite a lot of success with that, really, and kind of went out on the road, and it was kind of a cool thing. Like, I mean, no one was really doing a singer-songwriter thing at that point. It was actually really adjacent to the entire sort of grunge and indie scene thing that was happening in the early 90s. And so I got this brilliant opportunity. I went out and opened up for John Martin and Nils Lofgren, and just these insane legends, and kind of 20.
Good, that's why. But I mean, I know your solo stuff. I know that our listeners.
Only people, it was only in America people were doing that. There just weren't that many singer-songwriters around. Yeah, it was actually a bad word in the music press. You got slagged for being a singer-songwriter, basically.
Preempting Ed Sheeran. But I was going to say, because I know our viewers will want to know, how did you get that record deal, though? How did that come about? Because I think, obviously that's what everybody's trying to aim for, their deals and stuff. How did that come about?
Well, I played some festivals the summer that I left uni, and a label saw me and signed me. Like, it was pretty instantaneous.
So exposure.
Yeah, just had the opportunity to play in front of people, and had some friends who were really instrumental in that, brought people along, and people who were connected. It was all friends of friends, and it was all kind of, as all of this is, isn't it? It's all about relationships and interwoven.
Yeah.
But I kind of went and played this show. I played a festival and went and played this show. The label had their own tent where they were selling a lot of their own stuff, and they saw one of my shows that weekend, invited me to go and play their tent, and literally for some reason at a couple of the festivals I was playing, it was just drawing massive crowds. So we kind of just packed out their tent. They were kind of like, whoa, there's an audience for that. They could see firsthand there's an audience for this. So they just sort of signed me weeks later,
And we're going to get on to where you are now in a bit, because I just want to jump over to the other guys. Larry, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Larry.
Hey, man.
What's your story, Larry? Because you obviously were in 100 Reasons band.
I was.
But did you go to music college? Did you? Because
I didn't. No, I got into music. I grew up in an area southwest London, sort of between Kingston and Twickenham, and there was a youth club in Twickenham called Heatham House that happened to have a little recording studio in it. So it had a little Soundcraft desk and a 1/4-inch 8-track tape machine. So by the time me and my mates were 13, 14, 15, we were recording each other on this little studio and putting on gigs in the sports hall next door. And we ended up getting hundreds of people down these gigs. It was all punk music, So that's sort of where I got into recording, just sort of self-taught on a little 8-track. And And, you know, bands we were listening to was either British punk or more like sort of American punk, like Fugazi or Minor Threat and things like that, kind of hardcore punk scene. And 100 Reasons kind of grew out of that DIY punk scene that existed around there, but then obviously just turned our back on it and signed to a major label. Like the dirty sellouts we were.
And then yourself included, you mean you've now spun into another orbit, another branch of the industry, which we're going to get to in a bit as well. Yeah. And Dee, sweetie, what was your background then?
I didn't really go the artist route. It was always about songwriting originally. So I was writing loads of songs. I'd like borrowed an SH-101 from a boyfriend.
Gosh, I remember that track thing.
Actually, and it was like I was just obsessed with this synthesizer, and
I've still got one of those.
Oh, stop it! I don't know. But yeah, so I kind of like just started. I'd always written loads of poetry, but from being really young.
What kind of age are we talking here, by the way?
It's kind of like 14, 15 when I sort of had this like SH-101. But prior to that, like loads and loads of poetry, and I'd just have these books of words and thoughts of this like weird teenager that was like a bit of a weirdo and like growing up in East London. So it was I kind of managed to put them all together, and then I started to like get my songs together, and I'd go to studios to record them, and I'd come away really dissatisfied. I'd be like, they've made my song sound like it's horrible. So I decided that I needed to know how to do it myself. So I basically, you know, got a computer and stuff. It was ancient. It was like a Atari STE. I'm going back.
Those are the Atari, gosh.
So it was Cubase.
Right.
I taught myself how to program and do production and stuff. And then I just started to collaborate with different people. There was, after I left home quite young, and I moved to Camden. And there was a place in Kentish Town called Interchange Studios, and they would run courses, but there were I was the only girl. So it was a little bit intimidating. I wouldn't feel like that now, but I was like, you know, 17 or something. So I'd go and do these courses and just learn how to do stuff. And then I offered to make the tea so I could hang out there more and just like be there all night and learn stuff and get on the desk and things like that. So it kind of stemmed from there. There was a couple of opportunities where I was offered a deal as an artist, in the sense that I would be an artist and I'd collaborate with different people. And I really signed a deal, and I was petrified. It's not what I wanted. It's just people didn't really know what to do with me, you know. So luckily that deal didn't happen, even though there was an offer on the table. But the publishing deal that I was given at the same time did happen. And that's where it all kind of came from there. My first deal was with BMG, so I signed with them. And
was that Chrysalis back then, or was it BMG?
BMG, yeah.
No, Chrysalis.
Yeah, way back. So yeah, I just it just came from there. So it was really out of necessity of not liking the way things were sounding, needing to understand and wanting to understand the language, so I could explain that, you know, that EQ is wrong, that reverb isn't working, you know. Why have you compressed all of my sounds and made everything sound so squashed and crap? So I just needed to understand it more, really. And even now, I don't produce everything I write. I mean, I produce a lot. I produce like my pet projects and things I really want to work on. But I also love I just love writing. I'm happy to go in and write a song and contribute. And it's kind of nice sometimes to then leave and not
not have the responsibility. It's so funny you're saying about writing poetry, because I did exactly the same. I also, as a youngster, was obsessed. I mean, the top 40, I literally, because I used to record them on a tape back in the day, and I literally could sing every lyric to the whole top 40. I mean, I literally was obsessed. And I would research who wrote songs. Well, not on you'd have to go to the record store and you'd look at the credits, and then I'd want to read the lyrics. Yeah. And I think Diane Warren and Desmond Child, like I was really into Heart, the band Heart. I just thought thing. And ABBA and Heart were like so weird and stuff, you know what I mean? But yeah. And tea making, I was going to say, is I think a very important skill, because for me, I was a tea girl in the studio as well, and it does, believe it or not, everyone, sometimes open doors for you. Just the simple art of making a cup of tea.
So much from looking. and watching. So it's kind of, I'd be in the studio all the time, and it was, so when I actually got on the computer, I knew what I was doing, and what I loved is that I could sit at a desk and I understood it, you know. So it's sort of like, and it's a bit intimidating when there's a load of boys and you're like, oh, so what does this one do? And it's like, oh, Blondie, you know, do you want to make the tea? You know, it was a bit like that. I'm not going to lie. I'm hoping that things are different now.
We're working towards that, aren't we? Especially with the Ivers Academy, we have obviously our new diversity steering group, and we're looking to put on a lot more events and promote women in music. So
I do mentor a few incoming female producers and stuff, and that feels great because I can kind of hopefully empower them a little bit more, because I didn't really have that, but I did work with some amazing guys that, you know, are still my friends.
Maybe we can call you in as an ambassador or something for our campaign. There you go.
Yeah.
But guys, you've got these. So you know, we're in the studio. We've moved on. Our careers have moved forwards. We've all been obsessed with music all our lives, and you know, things twist and turn. Because I do believe that in this business, it's not just about being one thing. We can be diverse. We can be an artist, we can be a songwriter, we can be the producer, we really can, and we can do different genres and everything. But when we're in the studio, I mean, we've got this song, how do we know what to do with it? How do we, you know, we've got a song in our hands and we're not sure if we like it or not. What's the process? Does someone want to take that? No? I'm going to point a finger now. Larry, you laugh.
I don't know. It's different every time, though, isn't it? You kind of wait till the song tells you what to do, and then you run with it and hope that happens sometimes. And then sometimes you have to push that a little bit. I find if that doesn't come naturally, then you just have to sort of look to the room, see who's got energy in it, see who's got an idea, and just be quite open to things and not force it. I don't know. It's a difficult question to answer, isn't it? Because it can be different every time.
That's the correct answer.
Yeah,
thank you.
I love the idea that, and here, Larry, so that just shortly after I spoke, I realized, of course, we've been working on
Seagulls.
girl stuff together.
Yeah.
Good to meet you. It's fantastic.
Yeah, good to meet you.
to be on here with you. So brilliant work, man. It's so good.
Thanks, dude. I mean, Wait in Gold, which is the song that Iain wrote with Henry. We actually went and recorded that, and it wasn't as good as your demo, mate. I've got to be honest with you. That's why we ended up getting the guitar part and and that ended up being a bit of a coming together of two versions, because we took the guitar and the vocal, which was just for your demo, and then added all the sort of additional production I'd done on the other version. It was where we ended up with the version we had, and then Davide Rossi put some strings on it, who I think you had on the show last week, and there's the finished version, which isn't out yet, so no one can listen to it, but. Remember it for 2 months and then listen to it.
Well, Henry was down and played. It sounded really cool, man. You know, the first one sounded great too. You know.
So, guys, what you're discussing here is exactly something we should be talking about, because it's, you know, it's can be so helpful to people. So basically, Iain, you wrote the song with Henry.
Henry and I wrote it. Yeah.
Did you set out to do the full production, or did you set out to do a demo song? Did you mind that someone else produced it? I mean,
no, but the thing is, like, I mean, you know, obviously, the sort of completion of demos is a different thing in different contexts, and the amount I will add will range depending on context. And if there's a band, and especially if it's at an early point of working with a band, I'm knowing that. And actually trying to leave room and leave space for other band members, knowing that they will obviously, that's the sort of DNA of a band, isn't it? It's about them bringing what they do to it. So literally all we had was, I'm pretty sure anyway, Larry, like that original demo was like a guitar and a kick drum kind of thing. Maybe
pretty much.
Subtle moog bass or something to just give the chord some context.
Yeah.
But then it was a kind of vocal guitar and four to the floor thing. So just trying to kind of go, okay, here's some sort of little, you know, road sign to what, you know, what might be down the line, but leaving plenty of space so that it can be reinvented, or but certain parts used or borrowed or whatever, you know. And I'm the first. You know, there's times where I kind of write something with someone in a room, and then in a similar way to what happened with the first version of Weight and Gold, you know, like deconstruct the kind of composite production parts or the arrangement to some extent, try new things, throw different stuff at it, and a lot of the time that can bring a really new energy to a song after the kind of writing process. But I've been through the process plenty of times before where you kind of go, oh damn, this isn't, I need to kind of go back and kind of find the DNA that was there.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with Weight and Gold. We turned it into this big overblown thing and listened to it and we're just like, oh no,
hang on,
that's not gone well.
Yeah. Brilliant though, isn't it? Like the kind of like so much of the writing and production process is about what you throw away, isn't it? It's about
yes. Do you think that it's a base by base case, guys? You know, when each song and each act that we work with, you know, you have to make that call at the time, how much time, how far you're going to take a demo, or do you always go the whole way? Do you give it everything?
I think it's interesting in what you were saying about not taking demos too far when it's a band that has to fit into another world, because it can be a little distracting when you hear a demo and it sounds like a full production, but you know you're then going to have to go and work through this song with the band, and you're just like, well, where's everybody going to fit? Where's everybody going to sit?
Yeah. And it classes people out a little bit, you know, or they fit. Also, it can end up just with the song being discarded because the band don't like it because it's coming with the parts, you know what I mean?
Because it's not the right taste or it's not the right aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can kill a song. Yeah.
So then, totally. For our viewers, if they know that they want to take a song to a band or that kind of situation, or even if they're going to do it Nashville style with session players in, then they know that they can do a little bit more strip back demo and just be very selective on what they're doing. Perhaps is that what we kind of think?
I think less is more. I think you've got to leave room for people to own it, especially if you're pitching the song. And also if you're in a situation where you've got an artist in with you and you're spending so much time doing the production, that is so boring. It's so boring for them. And they then lose connection with the song. So I'm always like song first, and it might just be chords and vocal. Just make sure that the song really, really works. And that you've got, and it stands up like that. Because if you're dependent on the production, you've done something wrong. That's on these kind of songs.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what I'm saying. This is a different kind of topic. This is not like, these songs are not, although production's really important, the right production around it, they're not production driven like hip hop.
No, exactly. And it just has to work. Every element of it, lyrically, melodically. Everything needs to breathe and be as important as each other on all of the levels, basically.
So in this remit, we're really including the singer-songwriters as well, would you say, guys?
Yeah, and solo artists, I think, that are kind of, you know, on that, you know, crossover. I've been doing a lot of kind of more sort of dark pop stuff, which I love, you know, and again, it's very minimal and bare, but I'm also, again, very conscious, especially in this situation, if you're doing lockdown sessions, that's so boring. I'm here, you know, and they're listening to this same thing going over and over, you know, where I'm trying to work out a part. Whereas if I'm just giving them chords and then we're working on the top line and melody together, I can then go away and go into my little bubble. Yeah, so, you know, I think it's being conscious of keeping people's attention span as well.
Oh, that's a really good comment. So let's not bore people by playing on a drum beat for 2 hours.
Exactly.
Basic going to start off with just to get a good vibe. I know you do that, Larry, as well, don't you? Obviously, I work a fair bit with you. And what Larry was saying, I actually know that he does, because we've worked with this amazing artist, Harry Marshall, isn't it? And you did leave loads of space. I know you did. So it's true what you're saying right now. Because the band were going to go and play it, didn't you? And then... Yeah. It's really interesting to learn.
Were you bringing the band in after the fact, Larry, or did they play somewhere else?
No, they'll come. Well, we haven't actually finished it yet. That's going to be one of my first post-lockdown things. But yes, they will come. But it's slightly different with them because I've been producing them as well. So I sort of have a handle on what the production should be. I think when you're doing that and writing, you probably can go a little bit deeper. So I'm pretty sure it's going to sound like this or something like this. You know,
yeah, you gotta, but you can
put yourself in, you can put yourself in the band's shoes. Yeah,
sure.
Yes, and then, but I think when we finish it off with that, we will probably continue the demo, I would say. So go back and sort of start replacing the program stuff I did with the live players, you know,
yeah,
because it's on the right track, I think.
So guys, do you prefer to write something, or can you take that hat off and just be a producer and get the same joy and love? How is that for you guys? I
produce more than I write, to be honest. So that's kind of more. I'm a producer that sort of occasionally dips into a songwriting session, not the other way around.
I'm a writer, Larry. So that's weird for me, but never mind.
Well, I think my joy probably is more in producing, to be honest.
Nice.
But I kind of, you know, it's nice to, I find myself going through periods like I've just done a lot of producing over the last year or so. So now I probably would want to do some songwriting sessions just to have a different angle on things. I think it's nice to do both from time to time.
What about you, Dee? Do you favour one, or do you like them both the same?
I like them both the same, but they're completely different parts of my brain. I don't know how else to put it. Like if I'm writing, because I'm so into lyrics as well, I'm in a different headspace. And then if I'm producing, I'm kind of like geeky Dee, that's sort of like, you know, she's very different, where, you know, actually songwriting Dee is a bit sort of like dippy. You know,
Geeky Dee. I like this.
Yeah, exactly. But so I find that they're two different things that, you know, thankfully come together. But I like them both the same. Definitely.
What about you, Iain? Do you have a favourite one?
I'm not sure I have a favorite one. Like, I think, you know, I've been writing longer than I've been producing, in the sense that I've been writing since I was a kid, you know, and I think that's true of this area of production. It almost like the kind of producing a band or producing a very organic record that's got a composite of many musicians and different things. So it's almost like it should be like a different definition to the modern concept of pop producer. You know, it's quite different. It requires, I think, potentially quite a different skill set in a way, which comes with lots of, like, we're talking about making tea in studios. But all that studio time that you spend with lots of people, it all gives you the interpersonal skills to be able to handle sessions and deal with multiple people in a room and cope with the responsibilities of running a more elaborate production session. I think it is something that takes a lot of time and experience to do that side of things, unless you're some kind of absolute kid prodigy, of which there are many. Like, don't get me wrong, you know what I mean? I'll stand down to any new kid on the block who has those chops, and I'm sure lots of kids do. But I think generally for the mortals among us, like, it takes time, like, to get all of that together.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. Like, I feel that the things that I'm now learning about record production are not necessarily technical things, which you sort of learn all along. It's more just about letting go of your own ego, being open to ideas, how to manage people through a creative process, how to give them the space to do something brilliant, how to push them when they need a bit of help with that. It's all that kind of stuff that you really nail down.
Totally.
The older you get.
Absolutely. And the more time I spend jumping into session, like, that's what's great about being in bands or getting the opportunity to play in various sessions. I love those chances just to be a guitarist and do that thing, because then I get to work with Dravs or Jackknife or someone, or kind of end up in a room with someone who's another good, well, tons of rungs up the ladder, you know what I mean? But it's just a total education. All right, just in terms of how they're timing the session, when they're taking breaks, when they're putting pressure on people, when they're not, or Rick Rubin or whoever it is, you know, all of those sessions just immediately then inform how I, you know, get in a room with Kaiser Chiefs or Liam or whoever, you know, like, it just all kind of. What's that?
He's worked with the Kaiser Chiefs.
Yeah. Did you produce some stuff with Kaisers as well, Larry?
I produced it. I wrote.
Dee did. Oh, nice one, Dee.
With Ricky. I did a track on there, so on the last album, which was
On
fun.
Duck?
Good.
They did.
It was
Me too. That's cool. I had a couple.
yeah.
What was the track?
I should know the name of it, shouldn't I? It's called
Have a think and come back to us. Like, no, for real, I'm gonna let you think.
Yeah, totally.
Guys, do you feel, this is an important question, do you feel that sound trends, are there favourite plugins that you're working with that you could recommend? Are there, do we have to be mindful of the current environment, do you think, with music? Or should we just go, sod you, I'm going to do whatever I want anyway because I believe in what I'm doing? Or do you think it's a bit of both?
I think it's probably a bit of both. I'm pretty fickle when it comes to software and plugins. I'll find a plugin, it'll be my favourite thing for about 2 months, and I'll never open it again. There's maybe a couple of years that make it through all the time.
Yeah. You need that hit list of the ones that you stick with for time.
Yeah.
And then some.
CLA audio for vocals is just, it's quick, it's easy.
Yeah, that is really good.
Everyone sounds amazing with that one.
What is that?
CLA audio.
Right.
Vocal one. Oh, it's brilliant.
What his vocal, just his sort of dedicated vocal thing?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a plugin. You just put
it has lots of hidden processing, doesn't it? Like it sort of DSs and EQs, and you don't see it, and there's just like a couple of sliders. Those things. But it is really good.
CLA ones are doing a lot of stuff in the background, aren't they? Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
I love sound toys.
So what do you think about that? Do you think we have to be mindful of because I personally think if you're pitching a song, yes, you do. You can't write something like a song that's a mirror image with no modern influences and then give it to Katy Perry if she's doing dancey pop. You can't suddenly give her an R&B song.
You have to be really mindful of that. I think if you're kind of contriving something that's creative, it's to me that just jars with my brain. I kind of need to just do what it is that I'm feeling or the artist is feeling. And I think when I try to specifically write for, we need to write a song that's like that one, with the typical A&R thing of like, that song that's just been a hit, we want what we want. That to me just makes me go, bleh, see you later. I'm like, it's, the whole creative part of it is the thing that keeps me excited and like wanting to continually like write, so I don't think you can contrive your songwriting. You've got to just let out what you're feeling.
I think that was one of the main... Go on, Iain.
Sorry, Victoria. It's really interesting you saying that. It's like definitely something in my like thought cycle at the minute is just because I feel that very much as well, that I sort of strive not to sort of almost take on too much of that stuff, but at the same time, when I wonder how much it affects the sort of strike rate, but when those songs land, they really land. Like that's what's wonderful about that, I think. And yet, as a songwriter, it can be, I find it quite grueling sometimes because actually the moments are few and far between. And I think in the pop songwriting scenario, I don't know if I'm getting that right even, but within pop world, the frequency of cuts and things that kind of land where you're working with more and more writers, and it's a different
fast food. It's fast food, isn't it? I mean, it's interesting you guys are saying this because I've come to realise, but only as I've got a little older, that don't be too controlled by other people. Because I actually felt so burnt out when I left LA because I literally was given these briefs. I mean, literally, like almost like manuals in some of the camps. Like, I mean, once there was a Shakira one, and we literally had a manual. It was like, we want this word included, we don't. And I sat in, after I read this 20-page manual, and this is no lie, I got in the room with this producer, and I literally could not hear a thing. I was like this, And I felt like I was a puppet, like they wanted to do this with me, but it's my creativity. You can't really do that to people too much. So I think the beauty of the music that you guys are making is the fact that there is a little bit more freedom within that to do it. That said, interesting point. It's not an excuse to what is the word, to write meandery, cutter, singer-songwritery songs. Do you get what I'm saying? I think we've got to have that balance as well. Equally, in the fact that we're writing anything we want, we've still got to, I think, strive for something that's a little special, that touches your heart, that resonates with people. What do you think, guys, about that?
I agree, but I think as well that you just I think we naturally do that from being experienced. So I don't sort of worry about not being able to write a song. I can always write a good song. You know, it might not be the best of my catalogue, but it will be a good song. Pure, like I can drive. I've been doing it for so long that I can call on that skill set that I've acquired.
Level, you've got a basic level.
A basic level. So I think as long as I always make sure that I hit that, you know, I tend to be okay. But I did a thing about when I signed my new publishing deal with Buddha last year. I decided to filter what I was working on, who I was working with, and to go with stuff that, you know, I love what I do, and I wanted to make sure that what I was doing was what I love, you know. So I did this filtering thing where I don't do as many sessions, I don't write as many songs. I'm always working, but I take my time to like finish that song, you know, and to make sure that it's really good before I'm giving it to anybody.
How do you select that? Like, do you have a kind of like criteria, almost like, could you go, okay, that gets through because it ticks X, Y, and Z box? Or how do you, or does it just affect you intuitively? Do you just go, I like that?
I think it's intuitively. I think it's kind of like, if it's hitting my emotions, really. And what I'm trying to do more is trust my gut.
Yeah, if you feel things, I agree.
If I'm feeling it, you know, hopefully I'm quite in tune with, you know, the world and myself and everything else. So I'm trying to trust myself a little bit more. And before, you know, you'd be on like your social media and you'll see this one's got this cut, this cut, this cut, this cut. And that's really stressful, you know. So it's kind of removing yourself from things like that and just being you know, the only person you're in competition with is yourself. So just trusting yourself a little bit more and thinking, I don't need to do 7 sessions a week because I'll be burnt out, you know. But if I do maybe 2 or 3, I've got time to finish stuff, you know, and I've got time to live a little bit, so I've got something to write about. That's really important, you know, that you actually have something to, some experiences to actually write songs about and feel them in your production.
That's a novel thought. Actually spending some time outside the studio. What?
To bring some experience back into it.
You mean there's a world out there?
Start singing about microphones.
I know we'll all agree that it literally is in our business. It's like all or nothing, isn't it? It's like you're either running or you're quiet, or you're running or you're quiet. It seems to never be like a gentle trickle of stuff.
Yeah.
But if it's cool with you guys, what I'd like to do now is pick like 2 songs. You can pick 2 songs, and I mean, obviously, Iain, I know the 2 I would like to talk about with you. And I'd love to hear the stories behind them, how they came about, and the lyrics and everything. So I'll start with you, Iain. Do you want to do Run or Hold Back? Which one do you want to do first?
And talk about Hold Back the River, yeah. That's cool.
I mean, both of them. First of all, I mean, I didn't know that you'd done Hold Back the River, obviously. I've known you for years.
Such a brilliant.
Incredible song. I mean, really outstanding. Obviously, it's a smash.
It's definitely weird to be on this side of it, that anybody feels that way about it, because as you know, you finish writing a song on a given day, and you know.
Studio. So you're in the studio, and you had the idea. Did anyone have the idea? Did everyone have? Where did the lyric come from? And
yeah, so James and I had 2-day session. First day, we were noodling around with a bunch of ideas. We'd already done 1 session together. I think only 1 sort of 2-day session before that, where we'd written Craving during that session. Was the first track on the record. This was another single for James. But our pattern was very much the same. Like the first time we wrote a song on the first day that we chucked away, and then we wrote Craving. the second time we noodled around with about 5 different ideas. And the first day, talked a lot, drank a lot of coffee, and really, you know, James had some stuff that was pretty straight, close to his heart at the time, which informed the entire song really on the second day. So the whole conversation of the first day was about his career was sort of blowing up, and he couldn't get any time with his family, his friends. He had a lot of real concerns about this. You know, he's a good dude in that way, and a stand-up kind of character. You know, so he was worried about that. And so we, when we came in the second day, he'd done a little bit of thinking, and he has that Epiphone Century that, you know, is sort of signature guitar, and he would bring that to every session. It was just like the James sound, you know, and he'd play it acoustically in the room. So he just came in and he played the riff. He kind of was like, I was kind of thinking, how about this? Da, 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 da. So he played it as a guitar riff. You know, he's an awesome guitarist. And I was kind of like, you should sing that. So he started singing it, and at that point it was like,
oh wow! So it was actually an instrumental part, and then
yeah, that was what you hear at the beginning of the song when he plays that riff. That was what he started playing, and I was kind of like, you should sing that. And he started singing it. It's kind of that thing where it was like, oh, that could be a really nice chorus, which was evident in Eurovision's entry, the UK Eurovision entry 2 years ago. They basically used the Hold Back the River verse as their chorus, but not that, you know, there is prior art. Like, it's not, we weren't the first ones to use that melody, I have to say. But it's in Bonnie Banks' Loch Lomond, for frick's sake, you know. But he played that. I was like, try singing that. And he sang that. And I have this studio in the bell tower of a church in North London. It's a cool room for him to howl in. So he was kind of, and at that point in early on, you know, he was so liberated. He would just like throw his voice into the room, you know, and the room gave a lot back. And there's a lot of stuff that erupts out of his tonsils. And then at given points, you go, oh, hang on a minute. That's fantastic. I've captured it, play it back, develop it a little bit. So we did a lot of work. You know, we found the chorus melody, and it was funny, like, because initially James really liked it. The chords were kind of running twice as fast. It felt really, and if you do that, it sounds a little bit pedestrian, like hold back, da, 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 da. Like it was all moving twice as fast. It sounded like so singer-songwritery, you know.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was like, no, just play one chord under the entire phrase. Just like, it's kind of my total. It's like a sort of in punk rock, the indie rock sensibility, I guess. You know, what would Sonic Youth do? You know, they just freaking drone a chord, and so the chorus lands, and you know, and there's just a sort of dronal chord that sits under the entire phrase, and I kind of loved that. Got us out of it sort of being too chipper,
yeah,
and allowed the melody to settle. And then the lyric, I mean, the Hold Back the River lyric, I just had Hold Back the River written in a notebook, and I'm like, literally here I've got, you know, tons of
commodities. I wouldn't mind having a look through those, Iain.
there's just, I mean, you know, we've all got these, haven't we? You know what I mean? Like, but I like, and I would, yeah, exactly. But unashamedly, don't you? You're in the middle of a session, you've got melody, and it's like, well, what's going? And we knew what we wanted to write about, and already fleshed out the first verse. Because I get to the point where we're either trying to. I love it when you get that nugget of language that you know is your title or your kind of linchpin really early on, and everything else can flow off it. But we didn't have that, and it just wasn't coming. So it was kind of, it's that or line one to me, you know. So we started line one, and we got to the end of the first verse, and then it was still like, shit, like, what are we going? What's that thing?
Then you start panicking.
And then I'm like, okay, hang on a minute, you know. And then Hold Back the River was just sort of sitting there from about 3 years previous, and I was kind of like, Hold Back the River, like really fits with everything that James is saying. Like,
It does. I mean, it's like the river's flowing and you can't stop it, and you want to pull it back. I love the analogy. Great analogy.
Exactly. So that kind of, you know, suddenly it was like, oh yeah, that works. But in a way, you are sort of in a situation where at that point we crunched it all out so much I couldn't tell. I didn't know what. I was like, yeah, this seems good. Like, yeah, let's finish it. You know,
You didn't know at the time then if it was going to be a massive hit. I love this. Is the bit I always love with songs when you don't know.
there's no way you can know. And also, I don't know about you guys, but like, I get to the end of a day like that where I'm like, there's a certain amount of pressure. We've done well the first session. I want us to get something great by the end, but the cumulative concentration, and I you know, especially with writing, I don't tend to break enough. Like, by the end of the day,
breaks in a session. Does anyone here take a break?
I don't know about you guys, but what I've got.
You've been to the pub a few times, actually.
We have, yeah, but that's normally at the end of the
If I
day.
go to the pub, I'm not coming back out. But what I've got to do, I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of like, I get to that 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the day, and I could start to unpick every decision that we've made along the way, and I have to just go, no, it was good then. It's good now. It's got to be good now. We made that decision for good reason, because I start to kind of ask questions of everything. So really the last quarter of the day is just getting the head down and trying to trust your previous decisions and finish the thing, because I have no friggin' idea.
I find writing sessions a lot more fatiguing than productions. I think you're just sort of drawing a bit more creativity and you're digging a bit deeper. You can't rely on where you're putting the mic or making a sound. And it's a lot more intense. So I find you've got 7-8 hours, like tops, really.
Yeah.
You can't do a 12-hour day.
I don't think people appreciate how exhausting it is writing a song. You really have to give everything you've got. It's like mental exercising, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely draining. And that thing, I come out and I can't focus on it. I'm sort of dizzy and I can't focus because.
And then if it's great, you're buzzing. If it's great, you're buzzing, and then you can't sleep. So there's the other issue there. Oh, Iain, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Great story. Iain, Larry, what have you got one that you'd like to share?
I just try to think from a writing point of view, like my kind of favourite sessions are the ones where it just kind of falls out. And I'm thinking of I wrote quite a lot of stuff for the band called Nothing But Thieves. And the first session I did with them was when they were like kids. They were still teenagers, I think. And they turned up to my studio in Brixton. I let them in, and they were all just like, "Is it safe around here?" You know, they're really like terrified kids of where they were. And we just had a really good session working together with people that are young. They just signed a sort of development style publishing deal with Sony ATV. So there wasn't much pressure. And it was just a really good way to write a couple of songs. And we wrote 2 songs, one called Itch and one called Wake Up Call, which ended up being the 2 singles off the first record.
Oh, wow.
And that was just in that 2-day session. And it was just one of those ones where I started playing the bass line, what ended up being the bass line of Itch on an MS-20 synthesizer, 1 drum loop. Then within sort of 2 hours, we've got the entire song. You know, me and Dom from the band are working the track over here. Joe and Connor, the singer, are working on the lyrics over there, which is kind of the division of labour with that band, which is another thing to figure out with any band, isn't it? It's like who does what, who's going to work with each other, especially when you're writing with multiple members of the band, which tends to be what I do. But yeah, it's just one of those really lovely organic things where these songs fall out and they end up being really good, and they are the kind of songs which ended up springboarded them into, you know, whatever they're doing now, which is playing all over the world and being rock stars.
Did you like the lyric at the time? Were you banding lyrics around on that one, Larry? Or
it's one of those things, like, it's one of those band type sessions where the kind of aesthetic of the track and how it feels, because they were trying to find their feet with their sound as well. I don't even think the lyrics were probably finished at the end of that session. I think that was something that Connor and Joe had to go away and figure out. They would have had a framework for it, or some phonetic sounds and like placeholders to put a guide vocal down. But that's not, and that's also not, I'm not a lyricist. So as you know me, I try and occasionally dip my toe, but I'm definitely on the other side of the room.
That's because you're
we sometimes link up on that.
Yeah, sometimes. You're not bad.
I might occasionally have an idea.
When required.
Yeah, so for me with that, it's just about sort of you're helping a band get their sound together. They're young, and you're trying to pull out what's good about them and trying to exaggerate the good things and try and not waste time on the things that you think aren't going to go anywhere. And it's really good to get a band, especially a really talented band like that, at that stage, because that's when it's just kind of the most fun.
That judgment call, Guy, I noticed there's a thread, we keep mentioning this, and I really think that is important. It's like that judgment call of knowing and trusting your gut instinct of when it's good, when it's not. I mean, I was with Megan Cotoni, which I've had on the show as well, but she's written amazing hits for Little Mix and massive artists and stuff, but we were working on this girl band last night for Columbia Record, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we are literally grilling this chorus for melodies, like trying to get the hookiest hooks, change, slight nuances changes, and I couldn't believe actually how many times we went into it, but because we trusted our gut instinct, that we knew it wasn't right at the time, and we didn't know what was right. And then suddenly it's like, all these situations, suddenly someone goes la, 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 or plays something, and you just all know it just feels right for some reason. It's a hard one to ever explain, that, isn't it? It's how you know. It's just something that happens. I think it's a natural process. So do you agree, or do you think you can learn?
No, I totally, I think there are things that just land, and, in your gut, like, for sure, you're like, yeah, that's it. There we go. Move on. That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
And everybody else is like, yeah, that's it. Fantastic. Yeah.
Dee, what about you, sweetie? What song would you? Because you've had quite a few hits. So what? I didn't like to pick. I just knew Iain's. I just had to choose them.
I think it's when I'm really connected to the artist and the song. I like working with an artist.
You've done Dido. You've done some.
I think working with Dido was amazing for me because she's so talented, and we really clicked. So I think the session was really easy. We were down at my place in Portobello. I felt like we'd known each other for ages. We're having a nice cup of tea, a little chinwag and stuff. We had loads in common, which was great. So when we came to actually making the song, I can't remember, I think I was just playing some chords on keys. She picked up an acoustic, and we just wrote this chorus, and there was no pressure to write anything else apart from this chorus, because she works in a very different way than how I'm used to working, in the sense that she does lots of little bits with, like, say, maybe on her own with me, or but a lot with Rollo. So then she'll go to Rollo with these bits and pieces, and then he'll piece things together. Then it will come back to you.
Oh, wow.
Like that before, but it was amazing. So I'd have like emails from him, I really like this or whatever, and from her, and we just I did Give You Up with Psy.
Yeah, exactly, because you just had this amazing track in America. Wow.
That was a different one. But then I also did
another one.
Yeah. Chances as well, with
many of them.
Rollo. So that was kind of and that was the one where it was so cool, because we'd gone from scratch and stuff just to get this like hook, and it was all about like a meeting of our minds of what she wanted it to be about, both pulling on our experiences for that and really keeping it so simple, but the plot's there. I think it may have even just been a little loop or something playing with the chords, but it kind of like sowed the seed of what was going to come on the actual record, which was really nice. Her and Andreya Triana, who I do a lot of writing with.
Oh, I love Andrea. She's amazing.
We just have that thing when we're writing, like, with our minds, and we just get really connected on the storyboard. But she one song that we did, it was just a piano ballad that we did at my place in Portobello, and then Breach remixed it, so it had 2 releases. I always go to the original, just because I know how emotional it was for us to write it. It wasn't difficult to write, but it was so emotional because it's on some real true stuff that's happened in her life. And
what's the lyrics on that one, Dee?
It's about her growing up with her mum being a single parent and how difficult that was, and just they didn't have much money and stuff like this, so it was talking about like having to wear like hand-me-downs and stuff, but but the whole thing is, but you gave me everything you ever had, so everything that's the title, so everything that you could possibly give me, you gave me, and I am so grateful for that.
That's beautiful.
It was really lovely to write, and well, to work with her is always a dream anyway. So yeah, I think it's those really that stay in my mind the most when I'm thinking this is how I should feel when I'm writing a song. I should
true. That's
like
true.
that, you know. So yeah.
So guys, oh my god, I can't believe the time has gone so quickly. Like we got like 5-ish minutes. But Iain, we've got to talk about Run quickly.
Sure, yeah.
Because I mean, I want to hear this story. I'm sure Larry and Dee and everyone does.
I'm a fan.
Oh, nice.
2 times hit.
Yeah.
Isn't it at least?
Yeah, I know. It keeps living, that song, doesn't
that's
it?
the song that keeps giving.
Yeah, it really does. You know, there's such a life in it. It's amazing. It means a lot to a lot of people, you know.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful song. How was that written? What's the story on that one?
I mean, that in essence is kind of, you know, this is the cool thing about jumping from working with, you know, individual writers like James to working and writing with bands, you know, because that was definitely much more of it sort of came together. Initially, that song arrived during a tour. We were opening up, you know, I was playing guitar with Snow Patrol at the time, and we were opening up for Ash on their Free All Angels tour, which is that kind of university tour, you know. We were having a lot of fun, and probably, you know, 5 or 6 shows into the tour, sound checks were very comfortable, everything was sounding good. It was there was nothing complicated about the sounds that we were making. So we started really trying out new stuff in sound checks, you know, like, so.
Like just jamming on stage, that was it, just jamming.
Yeah, so we get on stage and you know, as long as all our levels were all right, we just use whatever time we had in those rooms to try out, to try stuff out. So that the essence of the verse of that tune that arrived, I can remember us, I think maybe being in Oxford or somewhere, and in that classic band way, Gary would have started playing the verse chords and they'd come in and I'd have played the riff, and the thing all just started to coalesce as a unit, as a band. And so that whole backing, the whole track, the whole musical construct of it arrived. You can sort of tell it happened in big rooms, you know what I mean?
But were they singing? Were they singing the melody in at that point or not? Just backing?
It was all noodling, you know, it was all kind of noodling around with things, having board recordings of things that were happening. But we had completely different verse melody at that point. We then went back to the tiny freezing studio in Glasgow called Diving Bell, where we then took those, and a few of the songs came about that way, where we took the raw materials and then started to sort of hone it. We got kind of band demo recordings down of those tracks, and then really Gary and I, you know, the weird thing with Run is that we thrashed out a lot of melody and Gary is very much, he will write his words. He writes that and he's a brilliant lyricist. So, you know, so he completed lyrics, but we thrashed out melodically what was happening, harmonically what was happening in the studio, all at finalizing it on September the 11th, you know, right on the day. I remember my wife Miriam calling me up and going, "What are you guys doing? You need to get the television and see what's happening." And we were putting final vocals down on the Run demo, you know, finishing the writing of it. It was pretty insane, actually, when you...
I was rehearsing with Kenobi for their tour.
Yeah,
I was touring with them, and we were in the rehearsal rooms, and I remember that day as well. Wow, yeah. So that's the same day you were cutting vocals on... What about
we were mixing our first record in New York when it happened.
Oh man, you were in New York? No way.
I was at RPM. I was on RPM on 12th Street.
Holy shit. It's
Dee, what
mad.
were you doing that day?
I was Fellow Studio. Yeah. Yeah.
So, sorry, Iain, go on. That's amazing.
No, not at all. No, that's good.
Wow, this is incredible.
But that's really, it was very much the upside down the songwriting process of a band, like finding what really gels, everybody working together, capturing that, and then starting to add melody and on top,
What is so incredible about that song, though, is it literally could be a female, male, and it really, lyrically, it works for everyone, doesn't it? And melodically, I mean, it's just like a perfect song.
Mm-hmm. Oh well, that's
Copyright. Well done, Iain.
No, not at all. Not at all. Definitely a team effort.
When you've got these big ones under your belt, do you feel a little bit of pressure now? Like, oh gosh, I've got to write some more like that now. That's such a high level. I don't have to go quite that high.
Oh no way, Victoria! You've got amazing songs. I'm more at the minute. I'm frustrated that there's not a lot of space for songs like that. I've just finished. I just had this record that I co-wrote and produced with an artist called Sammy Brew, released just on Friday in the States, which I'm really excited about and super excited and about our songwriting on that record. Sammy and I have pretty much co-written the whole thing ourselves, and I produced it here. But it's a tough time, for no matter how aspirational you can be or feel super confident in the writing of a piece of work. There's not a lot of space for it these days.
No, but you know what? It's important that we all keep doing what we do.
Yeah.
And because you know what? Eventually, we'll see the light of day again.
Yeah.
And I mean, Larry, you amazing thing that you guys are both working on the Seagulls. I mean, these acts are getting play on Radio 1. So I think we just got to keep doing what we're doing. And
that's the fantastic thing about Seagirls are kind of are definitely a shining light in that sense. They're one of the only bands in existence at the moment that look like and those boys could definitely go on to be festival headliners in a few years.
It's like Billie Eilish.
Every song's an anthem with Seagulls, isn't it?
Yeah,
Henry just can't help himself.
He's just great.
It's like Billie Eilish. You know what I mean? No one was into that dark, twisted stuff, and now she's opened so many doors, like for weird, quirky, and also beautiful melodies with different chords and slightly different production. I mean,
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like you were saying, about do it, like writing those songs because it's in your heart to write them, but it will be what sets them apart, I think, as well. That's the frustrating thing is like, not only do you have to get those songs really great, which we're all striving to do, but you're also relying on the time and space and those little windows, or a gatekeeper here and a gatekeeper there to kind of let something through, and that's the other challenging bit,
I think I've spent too much of my career, and this would be something that, because I want to get one final thought from you all. My one would be to share this thought that don't get too caught up in chasing trends and everything. I'm actually working on a project which is like Fleetwood Mac meets the B-52s.
I like it.
That sounds awesome.
So I'm doing it with Joe Killington, who's like an incredible singer and writer, and Mark Sylvan, who's a television and media composer. And the songs are like nothing else, and we don't care. It's like mums and papas as well. We really, honestly, we just don't care. We just do what we want to do. And I think that would be the thought that I would share today, is just let yourself be creative and do what you want. But guys, final thought. Dee, have you got any to share?
I'd second that 100%. Just love what you're doing. Be in love with what you're creating, I think.
What about you, Larry?
Yeah, the same. You have to do things for other people a bit, but kind of make yourself happy with them. That's the only thing you can really trust, I think.
Iain?
Yeah, I aspire to that. You know, I've found this really, really good. Like, thanks for taking the time.
Oh,
To
thank
do
you for
this.
coming to such
I'm
notice.
really happy that I've sat in. I think, especially right now, it's like all these conversations are so useful. They kind of spark you up, fire you on. Like,
It's good therapy, isn't it?
it's really good. And it's like suddenly, I guess that thing of not being in sessions or not having the opportunity to play, it's like whenever you just hear, oh, how other people are sparking, it sort of sends me back into it with a little bit more zest. So thank you guys. It's really cool.
And I hope to see you all soon. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, definitely.
One of these days, I want to get back in that room with you. For shizzle.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, flipping right.
No, anyway, guys, thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you. It's been great fun.
Our viewers and listeners, because we have a lot of people watching the recordings afterwards, obviously, because people are going back to work right now. But it's so beneficial. Have a great day, and thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you.
Nice one.
Cheers. Bye.